Back. For all of those who have been longtime followers of the channel, great to see you all again. Looking forward to seeing your comments in the chat. And for everyone who's new, very welcome. I am back here with Emmanuel, with Usama Daktok. He is the best Usama that ever was, that is, and ever will be. And of course, we've got JC from the Quranic Endgame. And today we're talking about Islam. We're going to look at the Islamic sources, and we're going to look at history and archaeology and ask the question and examine the evidence for Islam being based heavily on ancient paganism and moon worship. Now, this thesis has been around for decades. At the time when it was first broached, there wasn't much, shall we say, the internet wasn't around, wasn't as easy to collect together the information, but now it's starting to look that way. Usama, you've been dealing with Islam for decades now. I mean, you were born in the Middle East. You even speak the Arabic. And all of this information was new to you, but does it make sense to you? I mean, you're an educated guy. You've got your PhD, THD, LLB, MAP, something.
Listen, I only got brother, I have 3 degrees. One I didn't even finish, which is the social work propaganda of Egypt. I got a Christian education, that's undergrad, and I got a master's degree in mythology. I don't have PhD, and I will never have PhD because I don't believe in. I mean, you can have your own doctorate degree, just study and learn and investigate, like what we're doing right now. Literally, if people follow us for a few months or for a few years, they will be qualified to have the doctorate degree without getting the piece of paper. But anyway,
but from your perspective, being an educated guy who's studied, who's gotten these degrees and so on, and who's been in apologetics and studied the topic, does this all make sense to you? Does this sound like wild conspiracy theorizing?
Lloyd, I am so mad because I did not know you 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Imagine with me, I've been in America now for 36 years. I've been talking on Pal Talk when there was no camera, and then they added the camera to Pal Talk, and then think about it. All these years I wasted. I don't say wasted. We did ministry. We did a great ministry, but without having that knowledge which we have today, it make a huge difference. I wish I know what I know today, any of the years of the past. But I also discovered why Muhammad and Muslims hate science, hate technology. They call technology or science bid'ah, which means invention. And they actually said every invention is from the devil and every invention will end in hell. Because as you just said a minute ago, if it was not for the technology, if it was not for the internet, if it was not for the invention of the hand of the work, most of them are Jewish scholars or some atheists, or some, of course, we got some Christians. If it was not for this hard technology and the new information, how we communicate today, that here we are, 4 people in 4 different countries talking to each other. I'm sorry, that destroyed Islam more than anything else. Right. And thank God for the internet. Thank God for the computer. Thank God for my phone. Literally, I can do the same what you're doing right now on that phone, talking with you guys. So, it may be from the devil, as Muslims claim, but it's actually from God to destroy the work of the devil. That is Islam itself.
Right. Yeah. So briefly from you, Emmanuel, your thoughts, just the short, your thoughts on this whole thesis.
I don't know, but what do you want me to say?
Does it make sense
I
to
totally agree with you.
you.
As you know, I agree with you. Originally, I just wanted to blurt out everything I know about some of these pagan aspects and the pagan origins. But you actually said a lot of these things, and I think you're doing this pretty well. You're doing multiple series, and you address. I think by now you've addressed pretty much everything I wanted to say, to be honest. But
Correct.
I still have some things to say. Don't worry.
Yeah, final word, JC, your thoughts on this? Because I mean, this is not exactly, shall we say, well, the Hadith says, in the Quran, on chapter 9, verse 14, it said, this is a very different take on things, but it seems to be gaining traction.
Yes, and I think the more that you show, the more sense it makes. Before, I never even thought, hey, why are they doing these certain things, which they're certainly not from the Abrahamic faith? And you are putting on the table, okay, so if they're doing these things and they are not from the Judeo-Christian traditions, could they come from here, from here, from here? And you are helping paint a picture that they just copied everything, not just the Quran from different sources, but everything else. So every day is making more sense. So keep going.
Great. So everyone, welcome Arlette. Everyone, we had a fantastic talk, myself and JC, with Arlette up north on Saturday. We are looking forward to inviting her back again soon. It was a fantastic talk. People loved it. I've had people contact me offline. Everyone loved the talk. They felt it was great. And I'd love us to have her back again and maybe talk with Usama to add some context. And then also, I've also reached out to someone else mentioned a YouTuber called Ellie. She's in the UK. She's an ex-Muslim as well. She does very similar content to Arlette. And I have emailed her. Thank you for the hint. And let's see. And hopefully I can get both of you guys on and you can talk about your experiences. I think ex-Muslims are a fantastic way for people to realize that Islam is problematic and to understand that we need to start asking the right questions. We need to start, shall we say, cutting through the propaganda, right? The whole web of deceit that these Muslims spread. And also, Chris at Speaker's Corner, as you know, was attacked this weekend. David was attacked. He's a tall black guy, very good apologist. He was attacked this weekend in London. On the video, obviously, he's attacked from behind. Some guy punches him. Then Chris goes up to this guy, not aggressively, and the guy punches him twice. The guy looks like he knows how to box, and he punches Chris twice in the face, bleeding all over the face. And the Muslims obviously then help this guy escape. And of course, the dawah then starts that Chris was drunk and all sorts of other stories. But I think these incidents just give a lie to the claim of it's the religion of peace. I mean, the guy covered up his face. He looked like a Hamas operative at that point, and then he ran off. And the Muslims allowed him to escape. In fact, I think one of the Dawagandists, can't remember his name offhand, Orthodox Muslim, actually shook the guy's hand. So he seems to know this person. So I hope they catch him, and I hope he gets the proper legal penalty due to him. So yeah, any final thoughts before we dive into our presentation, everyone?
I just want to say something about Chris and our dear brothers who have been always treated the same way. This is the reality of the nature of Islam. They're not man enough to even show their faith if they're going to punch somebody, because they know they're going to be arrested and they're going to be in trouble with the law. And it is cowardice, it is stupidity, it is savages. I mean, we go to corners to speak in corner with the truth. We go with our words. They have no response back, but they have a fist to hit.
True, they're scared of us. They won't face me to talk about the Sharia. I know from guys at Speaker's Corner says that when they use my material, they're told don't engage, walk away. And they won't talk to Chris. They won't talk to several apologists. They won't talk to God Logic.
What are you going to talk?
They're terrified. They know we know Islam too well.
Okay, if I'm quoting the word of Allah in the Quran, if I'm quoting the same Muhammad hadith, if I'm quoting here is what your Sharia, at least I go for the reliance of the traveler, which is a softer version of true Sharia. If I go with these, what do you expect Muslims going to say? We're not Muslim? We don't believe in that anymore?
Denial.
The best way is to is bunches in our face and our nose. That's exactly what it is.
They don't know how else to respond. It's not a religion of peace. It's a religion of intimidation. It's just scare tactics. They want you scared. They want to frighten people into silence. That's the only way they know how to respond.
Okay. If they have response, why they never came to our shows, which I have done a bunch of them with me personally, and we never have one Muslim to say you're wrong and here's the truth. As a matter of fact, I will go to their channel and I will say you're wrong and here's the truth. And what do? They cut me off. They will not allow me to talk. We beg people to. How many times did you say, Lloyd, please, any Muslim, come and talk with us? How many times do you open your arm?
Yeah, all they do is deflect. If they do come on, it's deflection. You know, oh, you worship three gods. You're like, okay, great, man. It's not the first time I've heard that today.
I'm curious, Lloyd. How many Muslims did actually come on?
In the last, so today, as of today, or was it yesterday, my channel is 9 years old. So I think it's today. I'm celebrating my 9th anniversary on YouTube.
Oh, happy anniversaries, brother. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, and I had one Muslim come on.
One Muslim, I bet
We
you came
talk
by
about
mistake.
Sharia, and then we had 6 weeks lead time, and when I started to ask him and discuss with him, I was very polite. I mean, this guy has said some pretty nasty things, I can tell you that, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't have time to prepare. Oh no, I don't have my notes with me. Oh no, I don't have my book. Oh no, my scholar teaches something completely different." And then you ask which scholar, and it's Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who was taught at Al-Azhar, and I was using references from Al-Azhar, quoting Al-Azhar scholars, but his scholar from Al-Azhar has totally different teachings, but he just doesn't have those teachings with him right now. So it was just frustrating.
I'm convinced. I'm really convinced. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's dive in. So guys, we're here to talk about monotheism, Islam and the moon god of Babylon, and we want to talk about this long list of pagan and monotheistic Babylonian religious references in the Islamic sources. Why there are so many of these things, and the coincidences, the overlaps, the touch points, the threads that all tie into Islam and Islamic practices, beliefs,
Yep.
names, places. So, right, so this is where we ended off. Mankind's original religion. We spoke about the Sabians of Haran, right, and how these guys were involved with planetary cults, with Hermeticism, Gnosticism, Neo-Pythagoreanism, and Christian cults, esoteric Islamic sects, the Sufis, the Shiites, and so on, astral magic, the Greek philosophical and scientific material available to the Muslims. And because the Muslims eventually invaded, conquered that region, took over the university that was in Haran, that was teaching all of this magic and astrology. And it says here that all of this material was mingled with elements from ancient Mesopotamia, India, Iran, Judaism, and Egypt to form a syncretic system of belief that could claim to be mankind's original and authentic religion, the original religion of Abraham. And it's all based on basically star worship, moon worship, and so on. All right, let's move to the next page then. Right, that's where we ended up last year. Yeah, 9 years. So, hello, baby duck, mom duties. Okay, cool. All right. So we want to look at the word El. Now, this word is thrown around a lot. Atheists love to say, well, El is this, El is that. But let's have a look. El, Hebrew, El. It's Hebrews 10. That's in the Strong's lexicon. Ancient Semitic term for deity. It's not really the name of God. It is a title, right? And often refers to the supreme deity or a supreme deity. Assyrian is Elu, generic word for God in the Semitic languages, used over 200 times in the Old Testament, often as a modifying term with it, but in Job and Psalms, it occurs alone. El was the chief and somewhat vague, shadowy god of the Canaanite pantheon, and the title is used in the Old Testament to express the exalted transcendence of God. Now, we have to note here that when the Jews moved into Canaan, they used the terms that the Canaanites used, but they attached a new meaning to it because they wanted to restore the holiness and the uniqueness that was belonging strictly to God, right? Because they said, no, these are false gods. This term, this title should belong strictly to the God of the Bible. Now, the Hebrews borrowed this word from the Canaanites. It doesn't mean that they borrowed the God from the Canaanites. They took the word and they gave it a new meaning. So the linguistic derivation of the name is uncertain. Suggestions include roots that mean to be strong and to be in front of, as a leader. Now, the Canaanite god El was the father of human beings and of the gods. And he was called the father of mankind and the father of years. However, he was an immoral and debased character. Now, notice the Muslims will say God is not a father. I think they're objecting because they're looking for the original religion of Abraham, which predates Judaism. Then, of course, he's not the father of human beings. Rather, he's not called the father of gods. He's not a father. He doesn't spawn other gods. I think this is the God that Muslims are objecting to. Yeah. It's a tribute to the high morality of the Old Testament understanding of God, that a title that in Canaanite usage was so defiled. Remember, they worshipped Baal, and they were literally sacrificing children to Baal. They were killing and burning their children, the little babies, boys and girls in the hundreds, to Baal. So they could use this word to express the moral majesty of the God of Israel. They reclaimed this term and said, no, we will take this term for the Most High God and apply it to our God. We're no longer going to be ascribing it to the debased, immoral character of Baal. So just as the word God in English can be used of the true God or of false gods, so this word El in Hebrew may refer to heathen gods, usually meaning idols. Any thoughts? Osama, you seem deep in thought there.
Yeah, I just want to take it even a little bit earlier than the Canaanites and the savage people who worship these gods with the blood or the life of their own children. I want to take it even back to Adam and Eve, because I believe Adam and Eve started the right thing, and the right thing is Adam taught his children about the true sacrifice and the true worship for the God, and we got Cain and Abel. And obviously, we know Abel worshipped in the right way by offering sacrifices, and Cain twisted. The devil used Cain to say, "Hey, forget about killing a lamb or killing a clean animal to cover for your sin. Why not just some of the fruit of the earth? You worked hard, you plant the trees,
vegan and just give God a turnip, maybe a couple of radishes."
Something, yeah, but you cannot get blood out of them.
So maybe being a vegan is actually an offense against God about denying God's bounty and wanting to give him a raw carrot instead of
vegetarians, people who drink vegetables. I don't know what the word you say. If they are eating, that's fine. But if they use it for worship, that's not fine. But I want to say
it is a form of morality. It's just crazy. I mean, vegans are like in your face, you know.
I know. There's so much about it. But then we see the same thing, the circle of life happen again. Noah have his children, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And we know that the whole earth and all the people come out of them. But guess what? Ham, Shem, and Japheth knew the God of the Bible. And they believed in true worship of the God of the Bible. And what they did, the first thing Noah came out of the ark is he offered a sacrifice. His children saw the same thing. But later, their descendants, their great-great-great-grandchildren, did the same thing which Cain did concerning what he learned from his father Adam. So they started the worship of the false gods, and that's where the devil got in. So if you want to use the word El as a title or a name or something for a god, that does not mean it come out of empty thin air, but it come off the reality. There is the true God whom the rest of the children of Noah did worship for some time, and then slowly the idol worshiping and the false worshiping creeped into this descendants of Noah. And now we get to one guy named Abraham, and that one guy was led by God out of Babel to say, I chose you, that from you we're going to have a new nation, and that nation will worship the true God Elohim, and through you, Abraham, the blessing of the whole world will come through one seed, the seed of Abraham, that is our Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ. So even the worship among the early people did not come from just an idea. No, there is true worship, but the devil used the true worship to destroy it. Use El for Baal or use El for Elohim. You follow me?
Yeah. Yep. Baal. Yeah. Emmanuel, you wanted to say anything or?
Yeah, I mean, that is where Baal comes from, right? We established
that. Baal could well be the case. But yeah, okay, let's have a look at the Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew lexicon, Strong's H410. So El, noun, masculine, also in proper name, okay, Samaritan form, Phoenician form, and so on, probably Sabaean as well, right? Mm-hmm. Assyrian, perhaps also Arabic, Aramaic, compare, right? And they speak of Phoenician, Palmyrean, Nabatean, Sabaean. So this word was used by everybody to describe the supreme God. It doesn't mean that
Elohim, yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Elohim, yeah, that's right. Alif Lam Mim, Nazbut, yeah.
But notice the Assyrians had their god was Allah too. Allah too. Isn't that fascinating? Right? Yeah. It's also the goddess. Right? You also have the opposite, the goddess. Now remember, we had prior to even to the Babylonians, you had where they had that the god had to have a consort, an opposite, right? The female goddess, right? So compare also Bay, but with some various subordinate applications express the idea of might. Okay, so now we know that this term was common, but we also had Alat.
Well, where
right?
does the lot come from? That's not Aliha. That's not as that is you say Assyrian. That's not Arabic.
Yeah, and this is
Aliha.
Syriac here, but yeah, but in the Assyrian you have Alatu. So I mean, it's just odd that you've got this Alat crossover here, right? So now let's continue. Forms and
Is
transliterations.
this
You have Ba'alim.
just a minute, Brother Lloyd? I have to stop you for a minute if you don't mind. Is this what Muhammad talked about in the Quran? Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat is the same word?
I would.
Allat?
It's just such a coincidence because I mean this was used by the Sabaeans as well. So I think there's just a lot of confusion. But here you've got this Alat thing, which comes from Assyria, which may well even predate the Babylonians. So you know you've got so they are reusing pagan ideas, genuinely pagan ideas, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so now these are the various forms and transliterations of the word. As you can see, there's dozens of them. But you have Elim, Al, Ba'elim, Ba'elim, Elim,
Darling.
okay, Baal, Baal, Baal. Here you go. That's as you said, Baal, and then Halel, Halel. Okay, so Halel or Hilal is the crescent moon, which is the Islamic moon symbol.
Yep.
It's
Halal.
called
That's
Hilal, and
exactly-
Hilal also happens to be the name of a god. And the crescent moon that the Muslims have on top of their mosque is
So
the
Hilal
Hilal.
is a god.
Yes, it's a god. It's the supreme god. The
I thought we
moon.
talked about
this
the moon is God,
supreme
not
god.
Hilal.
So that symbol on top of the mosques is the Halal, the supreme deity, the moon god. Am I imagining this, Usama?
No, and I see it now, but I never saw that there is a god by the name Hilal, which is the Arabic
Yeah.
word for the crescent.
No,
The
I'll
crescent.
cover it later. But yeah, you'll see Hilal is a genuine god. It's a god. It's an Arabic and pre-Arabic god of the moon. It's the crescent moon god.
Yeah, I just want to say I don't know if you want me to get into this,
Briefly,
but this is now we're actually kind of starting to talk about the origin of paganism and of pagan god and of the highest pagan god. This is where the highest pagan god comes from.
Yes, the highest pagan god, exactly. So,
Yeah.
JC, any thoughts from you? You've been very quiet there.
Yeah.
Maybe just like a quick point of order, like for people. Now we normally think about these sort of things like pagan gods or something, like it would be a small region during maybe a couple of 100 years, and that's that. But that's not the case. When we look at history, some of these deities would have been around for hundreds, if not many thousands of years in a really long period of time. Like when Lloyd mentioned Baal, we see it in the Canaanites, we see it in with the whole Phoenicians for a long time, and it makes it all the way into the Kaaba. So it really lasts a really long time. So when we see a Latu that is attested like very, very early on, but then the name appears in the Quran. So some of these things actually carried on for a really, really long time. It doesn't surprise me anymore that they would have taken things from these traditions because they had to take them from someplace.
Yeah, and then also Ba'elim, this is plural. Typically, this is plural.
Ba'alim.
Multiple gods.
Yeah,
multiple gods. And also Kal-El. If you've seen Superman, if you watch the movie Superman, you'll know Superman's father is called Kal-El. Just so you know, you'll kind of see.
I need Brother Lloyd, I need to do a quick correction. One of the chat here's our friend used the word halal for hilal. Halal is a letter H in Arabic. Hilal is a letter H in Arabic. So halal, which means lawful, is a different word than hilal, which is the moon.
False friends, sounds the same. All right. Yeah, cool. Okay, so Baal and Hubal and Athirat in the Bible. So I'm not going to go into great depth here. This is just more surface level, just presenting the ideas. In Israelite religion, Yahweh replaced the great god El as Israel's God, okay, the religion of Abraham. So in Judges 3:7, we read that during Joshua's time, the second half of the 13th century BC, the Israelites did what was offensive to Yahweh. Right? They ignored Yahweh, their God, and they worshipped the Baalim. We just saw that, the plural of Baal, and Asherah. Right? So this is a pantheon. Right? And Asherah, Athirat, is his consort, his girlfriend, his wife. Right? This is the plural of Asherah. So they had multiple This was a pantheon of god and goddesses that were consorts with each other.
Is this the same Ashtarot in the Bible in Arabic,
think
or
so,
what
yeah.
is Asherah? Same word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, in 1 Kings 18, the prophet Elijah in the 9th century BC asked King Ahab to summon 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah. Again, Asherah is associated with the god Baal. This time, Asherah, or the Baalah, she's also known as Baalah, because the female of Baal is Baalah. Baalah, as in Allah. Isn't that just odd? Okay? And even as prophets, apparently about as many as Baal. Okay? Asherah is associated with Baal during the religious reform of King Josiah, 622 BC. Josiah ordered objects made for Baal and Asherah removed from the temple and burned. Now, the famous site of Ugarit on the Syrian coast yields a cache of 14th to 13th century cuneiform tablets that are a source of understanding pre-Israelite Canaanite religion. Included in the cache are ritual texts and at least 3 religious epic myths. And among the many goddesses in the Ugaritic text is Atirat, the consort, the wife, the girlfriend, the mistress of the great god El. Atirat is the Ugaritic linguistic equivalent of the Hebrew Asherah. Yes. Now, of course, lots of people want to claim that the Hebrews simply just took this god and just said, okay, no, he's not Yahweh, it's the same thing. But clearly not. There's a difference. They make a moral distinction. And they say, we're taking the name, but these are not the same character. We're going to use the title because it's a title. El is a title here. Now, this also doesn't mean that you won't find Hebrews that in the past would have strayed, would have worshipped these gods, because in many cases, the Jews were punished for straying from the worship of Yahweh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, next section. So now you can see here this interesting drawing, pagan, okay? And we're going to talk about the Kinda. They are kind of pagan, yeah, but Kinda, the Kinda from Yemen, right? And these are Yemeni pagans. So these are guys, remember we focused on Aksum, we started in Ethiopia and we worked our way across to here. And we looked especially at this region, okay? And these guys worship the same deities as those in Babylon. And they migrated north and they controlled this entire region. And they traded with the Roman Empire. They traded in India, possibly as far as China. These people were trading everywhere. They went to Turkey. They went all over the place. They were trading with the Byzantine Empire. They were trading with the Greeks. So they were a massive seafaring empire. They also did trips across the desert all the way up north. They would go up here and then go all the way up into Turkey. So the Kinda were all here. You can see how they went all of these places. Karyat al-Fal, this is interesting. Karyat.Kal. Okay, Kal, Ka-El, right? So, but let's continue as to why they're important. Now, Muslim sources agree that Hadramaut, that's the South Yemen, was the original homeland of the tribe of Kinda, which is a nomadic offshoot which founded the Central Arabian kingdom of Kinda. Okay, the Kindat al-Muluk. Muluk, as we know, Malik. We've already gone through that. Okay, Muluk, technically the king, but Molek. So it says here, it is not easy to trace the precise limit of the territories controlled by the Yemenis. There is no doubt it was the totality of Inner Arabia up to Lower Iraq and perhaps even Palestine. These guys had fortress cities, 12 of them, all the way up into the border of Turkey, basically. We know they were all the way up into northern Iraq, right? We covered Hatra already. So these places don't exist. They've been destroyed. But one was discovered in the 1800s, Hatra, which we've mentioned. And Muslims are very good at making things disappear.
Yeah.
The capital city still stands today, southeast of Makkah. I say Makkah because, of course, their main god was called Makkah. And it's odd that Muslims also named their main city Makkah. And the gods they worshipped include Ka'el, Attar al-Sharik, and Lah. So the Kinda worshipped Ka'el, Athtar, which you'd known as Asheroth, or again, we just Atirat, Asherah, Al-Sharik, we'll get to that, and Leh, the god Leh. Isn't that interesting? Remember last week, Osama, we had the Babylonian inscription with
Allah
Leh.
is Zaleh. Yes, indeed. Zaleh.
The Leh, exactly. Right. Rising from the east. Now, Sharik or Sharik means rising from the east, an indirect reference to the sun. It is a Muslim name also mentioned in the Quran as in Sharik, meaning the companion or the partner.
That's where you come with the name, the word shirk, which is the association of other gods with Allah, the unforbidden sin.
Now, isn't that odd? But the Kinda that controlled Mecca, that controlled that whole Arabic region, the whole of this inner part of Arabia, that controlled it at one time, they had Asherah al-Sharik, the partner of Ka'el. Isn't that odd? They had exactly the same partnership. So this was very prevalent in that region. Right? Companion or partner. South Arabian inscriptions from the 4th to 5th century AD referred to a god called Rahman, the merciful one, who had a monotheistic cult and was referred to as the Lord of heaven and earth. There's a good chance here that they were being influenced by Christianity and they had to adapt and they started to create their own version of the monotheistic Christian God.
But do you know that the word Rahman is actually a Hebrew word, like the word Rahim is a Hebrew word, which means mercy.
Yeah, no. So they borrow so what they do is they borrow. They keep up with trends. We'll see that happening more and more.
Yeah.
So now Aaron Hughes, who's a scholar, we actually just see where this link takes us. Let me just check where the link takes us. Canadian academic, Dean's Professor of Humanities, Department of Religion and Classics at the University of Rochester. So he goes, he was born in 1968. So the guy is still alive. Okay, cool stuff. He states that scholars are unsure whether he developed from the earlier polytheistic systems or developed due to the increasing significance of the Christian and Jewish communities. So they developed a parallel God because they said, okay, hey, looks like being polytheistic is going out of fashion. Everyone's into monotheism now. We need to make our own monotheistic God. And they create Rahman, one of the names of Allah.
Man, I did not know that anything good can come out of Canada.
May I ask something from the previous slide? If these people, the kind of pagan, they had these other people. If you could just go back one slide, please. So if this al-sharik, that pagan, and that's the word that then becomes shirk. Notice that the Quran always uses shirk as associators, and that is interpreted obviously to be Christians because they associate Jesus with God. But that happens in the narrative. That doesn't happen early on as we explore more and more of the book.
In the history, you're right. It's associating, it's going with the Babylonian and pre-Babylonian, the Assyrian form of having a female god that's a consort of the male, the wife of the god.
Right. So is it possible that when they developed the word shirk, it had nothing to do with the Christians, it had to do with these very specific cults and sects who they were actually associating that? And we said those who associate partners, it means those people later that gets rebranded to, no, it's the Christians because of Jesus. Is it possible?
You can. I think you can.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes good sense. Yeah. What does the audience think? I mean, yeah. Go on.
A lot of these words have changed their meanings. I mean, you know that better than I do, but it's the same with what is it? Kufar or kafir, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it originally mean to cover up, right? So
it's a Hebrew word. Yeah, it's actually come from the word.
Different meaning. So I think originally it was actually referring to the rabbis, because you have the written Torah, and then you have the oral Torah, which later became the well, you know what I mean.
The oral Torah, the Talmud, and all the other sources. Yeah,
exactly, exactly. So, but the thing was, you weren't supposed to read that, right? You were only supposed to read the written Torah. The oral Torah was oral. That's why it was oral. But then later on, it was written down and became the Talmud and so on. But a lay person was not supposed to read that, so they would cover that up. So they became the ones that cover up.
Yeah,
The
I'm not
kuffar.
sure. There might be other reasons for covering up. I mean, look, they cover up the Kaaba. I mean, who knows? I mean, we can speculate on that. And
But
for me, it's
kafara,
hard to be
yeah,
specific.
if you don't mind, brother Lloyd,
Yeah.
kafara is to cover. It is the true understanding of worship in the Jewish faith. When he sees the blood, he passed by. When the blood covers the house, when the blood covers the two posts and the upper piece of wood between the doors, whatever you call it, the headers of the door. But also in the worship in the Jewish faith, when they use the blood to cover the what do you call it? I can't remember the word in English. Anyway, the altar, they take the blood from the sacrifice and they go in circle and they put 7 drop on the what do you call this? The Ark of the Covenant, and that is how God will cover their sin. That's the word kafara,
Okay.
cover. That is the real
Okay.
meaning for the Jewish base for the understanding kafara. And I don't know how in the world Muhammad come out of it to call us kafara, because we're covered, because we have our sin has been forgiven. I mean, what is the root of it except they use it as a way to insult the Christians? They can call them unbelievers, غير مؤمنين. No, but they
Yeah,
don't call
but
them غير مؤمنين.
the thing is,
They call
they've
it
created this
kafara.
narrative, like JC said, but who knows what the original meaning was? But they've changed the story in the meantime to use it for something else now.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, well, I can give the answer very quickly. Kufar in the Quran is used as coverer, denier of Christ. The whole thing was about Christ. I have asked Odon, who has done a lot of research on this, to actually do a presentation at some point. So hopefully, when he has the time and he pops over, he will just show it. When you go through the verses, you will see that the whole point of Kufar originally were those who denied the Messiah. And as it happens with Islam, they gave it an 180, and now the kuffars are those who accept the Messiah.
Crazy stuff. Exactly. It's the story just changes.
Backwards.
Yeah. There was a question about the word Bismillah. I know it's very fascinating because there are certain words that show that al is actually the word the, and the name is le or la, as opposed to, it's not Allah as a pronoun or proper name, but it's the la, and Allah's name is actually la. And Bismillah is one of the ways that when you break it down, it actually shows that. But let's not go there now.
Yeah,
Okay.
isn't it the same? Isn't it the same with Baal? Same concept, right? You have El, right? God, and then you add the God, right? Baal, right? And same with Allah. It's the God.
L, yeah, the L, maybe. It could well be the L. Actually, someone look it up. Is Baal, does the word ba, the prefix, mean like the, and then the L? Just someone please check for us.
Yeah.
So, okay, so guys, so let's continue though. Rahman bin Muhammad, okay? So the upper classes, who are the authors of our inscriptional material. Now notice that it was the educated classes that made many of the inscriptions, the archaeological finds we have today, right? That would be your educated royalty, your priests and so on. They went over to some form of monotheistic creed, right? A cult of the merciful Rahmanan, the Lord of Heaven, which could best be described as Hanafite. Right? Hanafite, and the word Hanif, we've already covered that. That's what the Muslims originally called themselves. Muslims called themselves a number of things, Hagarites and so on and so on. We know this, but they also called themselves the Hanif, right? And so they created a cult of the merciful Rahmanan, and we're going to come back to Rahmanan later. And it is devoid of explicit marks of either Judaism or Christianity. So it looks like a carbon copy, a copy paste of Yahweh, but not Christian, not Jewish. They wanted to make a new monotheistic deity, right? That's not Christian or Jewish. At the same time, from the end of the 4th century, a few explicitly Jewish texts attest an influential Jewish presence, and in the 6th century under Abraha, where Christianity prevailed. So we know that Christianity and Judaism were very strong in Arabia. In fact, I did a show with Odon a few months ago, about 6 months back, where it showed that of the roughly 4 million, it was calculated, of the roughly 4 million people in Arabia at that point in history, half were Jewish. So Judaism was actually the predominant religion at one point in Arabia.
In Arabia.
Yeah. So Arabia is a debated question. Quran 53:49 calls God the Lord of Sirius. We already covered that. Now, the South Arabian deity, remember the Lord of Sirius, right? Sirius is the dog star. Sirius is the star, right? And the Lord of Sirius would be Al-Makkah, would be the moon god. Shin is the Lord, the head of the pantheon, right? And South Arabian deity Wad is mentioned in Quran 71:23, along with other unidentifiable deities. So it seems reasonable to suppose that traditional South Arabian polytheism was practiced until the life of Muhammad, even though it vanishes completely from South Arabian inscriptions that are dated between 380 and 560. What's interesting was, as we covered in the previous episode, these Yemenis were actually a highly literate, very sophisticated society. They traveled, they were merchants, they were very wealthy, they wrote. They left inscriptions, they had documents, they had records. But when Muhammad pops up, poof, all of that disappears. For 200 years, there's just suddenly all of the written records disappear. Very conveniently, somehow. 200 years of records just vanish after Muhammad pops up on the scene. And then suddenly, a new monotheistic god pops up as well, called Rahmanan, right? In ancient South Arabian, when they say South Arabian, they don't mean Arabic. This is the language of Yemen, right? This is a different language to Arabic. Certainly, it's like the mother out of which Arabic comes, along with a bit of Hebrew and other languages, as well as Aramaic. But he's often described as the Lord of heaven and earth. And the Quranic name, Al-Rahman, is probably related to that deity. So the South Arabians were creating a deity to be, shall we say, a copy of the god Yahweh, right? One interesting inscription ends after mentioning Rahmanan with the phrase Rabhad bin Muhammad, which is translated by the Lord of the Jews, by the highly praised. So now this takes us to the Christian from Ethiopia, of course. Who was the guy with the elephant now again? What was his name? The Ethiopian general and king? We just had him earlier. Abraha. So Abraha in the elephant story, he left inscriptions, right? And with Abraha being a Christian who from Aksum, which was a Christian kingdom, went into and for about several decades, 70 years at least, controlled militarily and economically Arabia, right? They were dominant in Arabia. They had Rahman, right? So the Quran has, pre-Arabian, pre-Islamic pagans create a deity called Rahmanan, right? The Quran speaks of Rahman, one of the names of God. But now we have inscriptural evidence, right? Archaeological evidence that the Christians who were there in the 4th, 5th century, they had Rahmanan attributed to Yahweh, the God of the Bible. So notice here, Rabhad bin Muhammad. Muhammad is a reference by the Lord of the Jews, by the highly praised. So this is a reference to the God of the Bible. Muhammad here is the God of the Bible. Your thoughts, guys?
When you say that that records disappear for about 200 years, well, that's how you do a recension at that time in Arabia. So you just destroy everything and you keep one, and there is precedent for that.
Yeah. For years, as said, you cannot call a human Muhammad, as this is a description for the praised one, the one who is worthy to be praised, the one who is worthy to be worshipped. It cannot be but our Lord Jesus or God in the Bible, if you talk just in general. But I like what you mentioned earlier when we went to Quran chapter 71 and verse 23. Allah in the Quran is telling us that the people of Noah.
Let me bring it up.
I'm sorry.
I'll bring that up. I'll just bring it up.
Yeah, it gives us the names of a bunch of God: Wadan, Sawan, Yahus, Ya'uq, and Nasran. Actually, 5 separate gods. If you can put them up, that would be awesome.
71:23, right?
Yes, sir. 71:23. These are the 5 gods which Muhammad claimed in the Quran, whoever wrote the Quran, that these are the gods which people used to be worshipped in Noah's days.
Do not forsake your gods, and do not forsake Wad, nor Sawa, nor Yakut, and Yahuk and Nasr. And indeed, they led many astray. So do not forsake your gods.
What is number 4 says, if you don't mind? Can you hit on 4? I need to know what is
I'll
4.
click on 4, certainly. Some scholars state these are pagan Arab gods. And Wad is, we'll get back to Wad. Wad is from East Africa.
So he's from East Africa, but is worshipped by the Arab.
Yeah, well, and these were pagans. These were Wad is an outright pagan god. In fact, here's the thing though. Remember I said that if you walk down the street and you see the church of the Lamb, and you see the church of the Savior and the church of the cross, and you think, oh my God, 3 different deities. No, it's one deity, different aspects.
Yeah.
Right? The church of the Redeemer. So Wad, I think, means love. So this is the god of love. Right? And he might have another aspect called the god of rain, and the god of fertility, and the god of crops growing, and the god of farming, or whatever it is. So
something they use as to bring good luck for their life, whatever they needed.
Yes, exactly. Correct. So we'll look at Wad. I see, yes. Did someone just, you just, okay, let's have a look. JC, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to show this. We know that there is a problem with the name Muhammad because in the Quran it only appears 4 times, and that's weird. It never says Muhammad ibn Abdullah or anything of the sort. So we know there is a problem. Some people have put forward that those verses are interpolations. There is a whole big question mark. The verses seem to describe Jesus. We've never considered that maybe Muhammad is meant to, or was at one point understood as Godhead, but this researcher, his name is Kuranwala, he actually put forward this idea, which, once I saw it, it became kind of, okay. In the Syriac, the name Isa and Muhammad would have been written not very different to one another. So
it's very similar.
If the works were done in Syriac, it is possible that very early on they could actually transform those 4 verses that if it said Isa, it would be very clear he's the seal of the prophets and all of these things, that they would have made one change to another, or that they could have used those 2. It's just that it's a little bit weird that they look so similar. Want to share that.
It looks very suspect, very conveniently done.
As we also know, in the early days of Islam, there was no vows, so you could not actually say that is Muhammad. But if I read it as it is right now without vows, I can read it simply to be Muhammad. Muhammad is the right way to read that word written in front of me. I'm talking about the Muhammad in Arabic is Muhammad, not Muhammad.
We're all in agreement, right, that Muhammad is not actually a name, but a title, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The praised one.
And since we're talking about that, I just want to add, I always found it so curious and almost funny, if it wouldn't be so sad, that in a lot of Muslim countries where you have these blasphemy laws, right? I've never ever, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Have you seen this? Because I've never ever seen someone get executed for blasphemy against Allah. That never happens. It's always blasphemy against Muhammad, right?
Yep.
It's when you're disrespectful to Muhammad.
And you can, brother Emmanuel, you cannot blaspheme against man. The blaspheming is a sin against God.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Muhammad is their God. I mean, otherwise it would make no sense to be able to blaspheme against Muhammad.
Good point. Yeah. Solid point. Yeah, you blaspheme against God, so Muhammad is God to them. Yeah. In fact, Muhammad is their presence of God on earth. And today, the Quran is their presence of God on earth for Muslims.
And because they don't have Muhammad or the Quran is worthy to show any respect for the life of Muhammad, the Sunnah of Muhammad, the teaching of Muhammad, the teaching of the Quran. Both the same. They're evil. They're evil. They're not good. They're not morals. There's no moral there.
Right. So let's continue. So the Sumayyafa inscription, again, this is from archaeology where you have got inscriptions on rock. The Sumayyafa inscription ends with the invocation in the name of Rahmanan and of his son, the conquering Christ, right? And it says, Bismillah Rahman Waben huwa Christos, or however you say that. So Abraha's inscription, now this is from Abraha, who was there, you know, the elephant and Abraha and Muhammad's birth year and Muhammad the elephant, all that. So the most significant is this: with the power, the help, and the mercy of Rahman and of his Messiah and of his Holy Spirit. So now you've got the Jews and these Christians had been using Rahman as God. Now you've got Christos, Christ, you've got Rahman, the Holy Spirit, and this was all over the place, right? So then suddenly Islam later comes and says, no, Rahman is the name of Allah. So now they steal this title. So you had this title being used by these Christians and Jews, then suddenly gets adopted by the pagans, and suddenly it makes its way into Islam. And you have Rahmat, Rahman, okay, Masiha, okay, Messiah, you can see the Messiah, and recounts a Christian celebration. And they came back to the town of Marib, which is in Yemen, and celebrated a mass at the church in Marib because there was a priest there, the abbot of its monastery. How many monasteries are in Yemen today?
I have no idea.
What do you think, Usama? Your thoughts? I mean, the fact that here we've got evidence of inscriptions of Rahman, the god Rahman.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And that is, what is the time on that? I wish I know that when this was written.
500s, I think.
541.
400s, 400s.
Yeah, so before Muhammad, or the claim of Muhammad to be there. But do you know, I did not know how many monasteries we have in Yemen. Do we really have some there?
I doubt that very much. Yeah.
Because if Muslims exist in Yemen, they will clean up any building, have anything to do with Christian faith or Jewish faith.
Yeah. Anything, JC, anything from you?
No, I'm good. But yeah, I would say that now they don't really have lots and lots of monasteries and cathedrals and churches over there in Yemen. Don't think so.
Yeah. So they just got rid of the evidence. So now this is a slide that I've had here for ages, because people talk about the word. We had the god Iya, Yah. Okay, we had La, and people were talking about no, but the moon god in Egypt was Iya. Okay. Now, I mean, for instance, if you have the letter H and K between different languages tends to change quite a bit. Okay, like Christos with a K in, let's say, in Eastern Slavic languages could become Christos with an H.
Huh.
Right? This is not uncommon. H and K. If you look at G, right, Hag and Hajj, G and J switch places in different languages. Right?
And in Arabic, we don't have it as Christo, we have it as Masih.
Yes. So letters can change.
A completely different word now. Masih.
Like, yeah, and La. There's no need for it to be, but let's have a look. So yeah, it's supposed to be something totally different. Let's have a look and compare it to the deities that we spoke of last time. So Iya, okay, have a look. This is the Egyptian moon god. I'm going to zoom in here. Iya, the Egyptian moon god. Does this symbol look familiar?
It looked like the crescent. It looked like Hilal.
The crescent with a little star in it, right? So suddenly, this looks interesting. So the name Iya refers to the moon. Iya then becomes conceptualized as a lunar deity, right? But whose manifestations from the hieroglyphic evidence can include the crescent of the new moon. Nothing to do with Islam.
Yeah,
Someone was really...
hundreds of years before Islam. This is old history.
And it's comparable to other moon deities like Thoth, who is a part of the Islamic pantheon, shall we say. We've already discussed that. It is probable that contact with Middle Eastern states in Palestine, Syria, and Babylonia was instrumental in the development of Iya as a deity, because the Egyptians were going, hey, those guys have moon gods. Why don't we have a moon god? Damn it, someone create a moon god. So they made one. Certainly the zenith of Iya's popularity, or Yah, you can call him Yah, right, lay in the period following the Middle Kingdom, when immigration from Palestine dominated Egypt, right? And they had an important temple at Haran in North Syria. And we spoke last week at length, and we ended off on Haran being the major center of supposedly what the Muslims thought was the original religion of Abraham. And it's just a sheer coincidence. It's got to do with the guys that worship the moon god Ea. Nothing to do with Islam. And then, of course, you have Ea-hotep. Ea is content. And the founder of dynasty number 18 was called Ea-mos. Ea is born with the same element in the name of his wife, Nefertari. Most likely the Middle Eastern deity who gave stimulus to the
By the way, Nefertiti is the queen of my city, Elminia.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we know that these are all to do with Egypt. So again, now this Egyptian connection I mentioned before comes back. And this gave it stimulus to the adoption of Ea or Ya as the influence behind the name Kamosi, the brother of Yamose, who began the final thrust against the Hyksos domination. And Kamose is the bull is born. And this might be the Egyptian equivalent of the name applied to the moon god Shin, describing the moon god Shin as a young bull with strong horns, i.e. the tips of the horns are the tips of the crescent moon. Suddenly, we have a lot of, shall we say, strands or paths that are converging once more.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask? So the whole thing with the hilal, with this crescent moon, I had never actually thought about it. You know, that's the symbol of Islam. It's in the flags. It's everywhere. I never even questioned that for a second. And it's only after you start pointing it out, like why did they choose that, that is really bothering me. I've never actually studied this in the Islamic sources. Do they give any explanation as to why is it supposed to be because of Ramadan? What do they say about it? It's weird.
I always thought that the moon in Islam is because from which we know the beginning and the end of every month of the 12 months, and now we know the beginning of Ramadan and the end of Ramadan because that's the only mention in the Quran. How do we know the Ramadan months started? By whoever seen the hilal, which is the beginning of the moon. And when we see the new hilal, which is now it's the month of Sha'ban, that means it's now the fasting ended. But I never heard any person really talk about it in a way to say that's the only reason why we have a moon in top of every mosque.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually asked Muslims about that. I asked them, hey, some of them were using that, on their flags and as a symbol, while I was asking them. So I was asking them, oh, you're using that flag, do you know what that symbol means? The star and crescent, and they don't know.
And here's the truth. If they can figure out the month of Ramadan by the moon, we should have the sun also on the building because we figure out the 5 daily prayers by the sun, not by the moon. So why we don't have the sun outside the mosque?
Yeah, but on the Kaaba, the doors of the Kaaba have the sun and the moon.
Both. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember on that. Yeah.
And it says this imagery is compatible with the Egyptian concept of the pharaoh as an invincible bull, right? And there's a scene where the king is accompanied by his mother and 3 queens, including Sit Ya, daughter of the moon god. Isn't that just odd? Okay, isn't that just odd that you have these connections that suddenly, where the heck was I? We've already discussed Muslims will generally just claim that no, it's got to do with it's the fault of the Turks, right? They'll just blame the Turks and just kick it off on them. Oh my gosh, where was I? They'll just blame the Turks, but it's not as simple as that.
It's much older than the Turks.
Yes, correct. They'll blame the Turks, and then but it's much older. Yeah, exactly. So Ya, the moon god. In its earliest attestations, the name Ya refers to the moon as a satellite of the earth. Now, this is in the Routledge Dictionary of Egyptian Gods and Goddesses, right? So we know that's legit. Now let's have a look at Moloch. Okay, Moloch, Malik, Malik Abdul Malik, derived from the follower of Baal, the servant or the slave of Baal. Interesting. And then, of course, you have the term Karabal, Karab El.
Wait a minute. I saw it in Arabic. Malik is king. Abdul Malik, the servant of the king, and that's how we give.
In the Hebrew, yes, but it also refers to Baal, to Molech.
Oh, that's a different story now.
You got to understand that when you're talking about, very, very ancient times, when, when the ancient paganism came around. The concept of well, there was a relation between the king and and the pagan deity and the planetary deity. It was basically the same concept. They didn't differentiate. So obviously, they have the same word in a lot of languages. You can see that very well in Egyptian paganism. Where you have the pharaoh being the representation of the sun god on earth. Basically, he is the sun god. Of course, the sun god is up in the sky as well, but his representation on earth is the pharaoh. It's the same concept.
Right. Okay, so let me see. Yeah. Now, the name derives from combining the consonants of the Hebrew melech, king, with the vowels of boshet, which is shame. So Molech is the king of shame, or a shameful king. Remember, it's got a sense of depravity to it. It's got a sense of unholiness linked to it. And Molech has a bull head, and the root is MLK, Muluk, or like Adramelech. Modern scholars have proposed that Moloch may be the same god as Milcom, Adad Milki, which are names from different areas in that region and different times that they had these pagan gods. But these are all just different names for Baal, right? And also, Malik is one of Allah's 99 names. He's called the Malik al-Malik, or Malik al-Muluk, the king of the kingdom. It's actually twice.
Malik al-Mulk.
Yeah, Malik al-Malik, yeah. So King Solomon was led astray by the third of the favorite pagan gods of the land, Molech, to whom he raised an altar near Jerusalem. The Bible tells us God twice warned him not to, and in punishment, his heir would be deprived of 10 of the tribes of his great kingdom. Molech was a god of the Ammonite peoples. His name seems to be tied to the Hebrew word Melech, which means king, which in turn suggests he was an older god, perhaps the Akkadian deity Malik. Like Baal. Oh, by the way, this Karib Baal here, we were speaking about the Yemenis, right? The Karib, Mukarriba, Makoraba from Mukarriba. And these were the Yemenis who worshipped. That was their Mecca. They worshipped the god al-Makkah, or the god Makkah.
Does the word Mukarrab mean to draw me near, to get closer?
Mukaraba, the Mukarib is the one who does the will of the Karib, and the Karib El is the great god.
Man. So it's not Arabic, obviously.
It's not, no. Muk is like the one who does the thing.
Yeah,
and he's so Karib is like they're Karib El. They're the worshippers or followers of El. They do the will of El.
I get it.
And like Baal, his cult may have been transported to Carthage, where we discussed Carthage, where they were burning children, murdering hundreds of babies to Baal, where he was worshipped as the god Molech until the servants of the Olympian gods pulverized ancient Carthage.
It's very interesting that I did not know that until maybe 8-9 years ago. I was writing my last book about jihad, killing in the Bible, and I learned so much about the worship of these gods and how they were offering their children. And that's one of the reasons why God ordered the children of Israel to wipe these people out from the face of the earth. And he said, if you left any of them alive, that's exactly what you will be doing. And guess what? They left some of them alive, and the children of Israel worship these gods, and they offer their own children to these gods. And have this been left, there will not be life today on earth, because if that worship continues to exist, eventually we'll run out of people on earth, because you're killing all the new babies and no replacement for the
people. And they call it abortion today. Before it was called the worship of Baal, but yeah.
May I, just before we move on, ask a quick question to Usama, because about the Makoraba, that it is not Arabic. What is Makkah an Arabic word?
I do not know what Mecca means. It's not an Arabic word. We don't have a meaning for it.
Well, Makkah, I mean, this is a Yemeni term this was the Yemeni name for the Babylonian moon god Shin, was one of the terms they used. And he was called Allah. The Yemenis called him Allah as well. Yeah, Allah was Makkah. Allah was Shin.
You see, there's so many words we have in the Quran or in Islam or in the dictionary of Islam, and we do not know what it is. We have no idea what it is.
Right.
Okay. Because yes, with that is if it is not Arabic, then it needs to come from another source. And this
Sure.
is when we are thinking, no, Makkah is that thing, but if it is not an Arabic word, then what Lloyd is saying, which is, okay, they have to borrow that from other
From somewhere
places.
else,
And this
other
is,
language.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Amalekites, exactly. The Amalekites were the enemies of the Jews, right? Amalek, Amalek. Yep. And then also now Malik, okay, is the keeper of hell, right? Allah is Malik, right? Servant of Malik, Abdul Malik. Malik is the keeper of hell and is the head of the angels of torment, the angels that torture the souls in hell. And his place in the midst of hell is connected to all parts of it by bridges which the angels of torment pass upon above its inhabitants. Now, in Islam, when you die, you have to cross a bridge of torment. You have to cross a bridge which will cut you and burn you. You'll be consumed by fire. You will be cut by sharp, thin blades, and you will be punished by your own people. You have to tear the flesh of people. And Malik is the keeper of hell and the angels that torment and torture people. Isn't this a little bit of an odd coincidence, Usama?
This is exactly what Muhammad teach about the tombs and the punishment of the tomb and the burning in hell. This is Islamic.
But this is not
now
Islamic.
It's actually early than Islam. When this was written?
Your guess is as good as mine. Let me try and find it for you. I'm going to try.
I mean, is this something after Muhammad or before Muhammad?
It will be before Muhammad.
You mean even that Muhammad copied also as well? MashaAllah, MashaAllah. What did Muhammad come up? I mean, I'm thinking here for a minute. Did Muhammad come up with anything new?
Hating dogs.
Huh?
Drinking camel pee and hating dogs.
Yeah, that was his innovation, his bidah, his innovation.
Nothing new in Islam, guys. Nothing new. Muhammad did not come up with any. I guarantee you, first of all, drinking camel urine was known by the Africans for 500 years before Muhammad. For 500 years. It was literally around 1 century after Christ. People were drinking camel urine in Africa. I know this for a fact.
Okay. I'm from Africa and I'm ashamed. I do not endorse this.
Talk about camel urine.
It's true. It's true. Because I thought Muhammad is the first one who come up with the idea of actually they were drinking camel and cow urine. Anyway, never mind.
Right. I'm just going to find now. Hold on. So we're looking for keeper of. Cancel this.
But the thing with the bridge, doesn't that come from Zoroastrianism?
Probably.
They have the bridge. Yeah, I thought it was the description is not as detailed in Zoroastrianism, but yeah, they have the whole bridge and you have to go and you fall over and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Zoroastrianism, it kind of makes more sense because, to them, God and the devil are basically two aspects of the same guy, if I understood correctly, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find this reference. So it's busy loading.
I thought in the Zoroastrianism, it was kind of, sorry, I researched this a really long time ago. Like there is that bridge and you start crossing. And basically, if you have been good, you go all the way through. But otherwise, you just fall at one point or another or something along those lines. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's the same as in Islam, right? It's the exact same.
It's something like this. Yeah.
You talk about hell in Islam?
Yep.
Emmanuel, what are you talking about, brother?
Yeah.
Well, in Islam, actually, there's 7 hells, not one. And the first one is for the Muslims.
No, but the bridge.
Oh, no, the bridge is the interpretation of the words, وَمَا مِنْكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا, not one of you, but he will enter it. Obviously, Ibn Abbas ended this argument by clearly teaching us that every person will go to hell. He himself will go to hell, and only Allah, whom Allah show mercy, will be removed from hell, number one. So all the Muslims will go to hell. Ibn Abbas ended that. But there is a fabrication. I don't call this interpretation. I simply call it fabrication. That there is a bridge stretched above the hell, and those people will go above it. Some of them are going to fall into hell, and some of them are going to burn with the heat of the hell. And if you are a good Muslim who have many good deeds, you can go faster, and you don't even feel. You don't suffer as much as those who go slow. So there are people who go fast like a lightning, and there's people who will go slow like a turtle.
This is actually in the Reliance of the Traveler. This reference, if I recall now, this is in the Reliance of the Traveler, and they speak of Malik as the keeper of hell.
Yeah. Well, that's what I know from Islam, but I wonder if this come from other sources before Muhammad. That's what my
Yeah,
point.
we were just saying it comes from Zoroastrianism.
Probably, yeah, I would think so. Yeah, so okay, yeah. So Judges 8:21. So Zebah, Zalmunna, and the kings of Midian, right? In Psalms. Gideon arose and killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and he took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. So the crescent and people who had crescent symbols were enemies of the Jews. Judges. Besides the crescent ornaments and the pendants and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, and besides the collars that were worn around the necks of their camels. Now, Midian was the land or a tribal lead. Some scholars have suggested that the name Midian does not refer to geographic places or a specific tribe, but a confederation or league of tribes brought together as a collective for worship purposes. Paul Haupt first made this suggestion in 1909. He said Midian is a cultic collective, right? A Kultgenossenschaft, or meaning an association, right, of different tribes in the vicinity of a sanctuary or haram, right? Eilat, on the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba, was suggested as the location of the first shrine, with the second sanctuary at Kadesh. Now, this also matches the same description as we have for the Yemenis for the Mukaraba, right? They are thought to have worshipped a multitude of gods, including Baal Peor and the queen of heaven, Ashtaroth. Now we go back to the Midianites, and we go back to these pagans, and yes.
Yeah. I have to play grammar Nazi since you have German roots here. So but I just want to use that to illustrate that every time I've seen it every time you have something in German that gets translated to English, it gets watered down, it gets whitewashed, it gets sugar coated. So first off, it and you can see that yourself in it. Don't put it away.
Sorry, hold on. I'm just going to find Kultgenossenschaft. Yeah, what should this be?
Okay, so you can see that yourself. Kultgenossenschaft obviously doesn't mean cultic collective. It says it there, right there. The German word is the same, cult. So it says cult collective, not cultic. I'm just using that as an example to show you that how they're always sugarcoating stuff, right? And the other translation is wrong as well. Bund does not mean association. Bund means federation.
Wow. You're right.
Hey, I'm glad we got a German guy here.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So that is now fixed.
Okay, well, in this slide, it's not that important.
It was quoted straight from the source, but we'll fix it.
And I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed by people sugarcoating the translations.
Do you think, Emmanuel, they did it on purpose, or they just because they don't know?
No, I'm so used to it. They do it with obviously they do it with Hitler. They do it with obviously
Islam.
With Martin Luther. They do it a lot with him. They do it with Marx. They do it with Hegel. They do it every time. These guys are way worse than you think, because the English translations get sugarcoated.
Right. And notice these are enemy of Yahweh then and now, because they said, come and let us wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel be remembered no more. And that's exactly what the Muslims are trying to do today. And the people before them with the same goal were the ones who had crescent moon as their symbol. Right? In Psalms 83:11, make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, and all their princes like Zebah and Zalmunna, who says, let us possess for ourselves the pastures of God, because they need to control Palestine, right? So hold on. Yeah, I see that we've, okay, we just put this here. Oopsie. Let's put that back. Oops, just give me one moment. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so here you go. This is Israel. This is modern Jordan, modern Saudi Arabia, and this is Midian right here. Just so you have a point of reference. So this is pretty close. I mean, this is in Arabia.
That's where Moses, by the way, lived 40 years after killing one of my cousins.
All right. I'm sorry about your cousin, but at least he was killed by someone famous. Okay. So now this is Arabian Ethiopia by C.J. Robin, Oxford Handbook of Late Antiquity, right? A second question concerns the nature of Allah. Was he the god of the supporters of monotheism? This is 2012, or a god of pagan origin? In the oldest revelations of the Quran, the name of Allah does not appear.
Wait a minute. Stop. Time out. Are you serious?
Yep, I come across this before.
So,
when Muhammad,
what names were you using instead of Allah?
he calls him the Lord or something. And when Muhammad refers to God, he says the Lord. Or if you want to give him a proper name, it is Al-Rahman, which we discovered was a name that the pagans came up with as a monotheistic deity after they learned about Rahman, the god of the Jews and Christians, which the Muslims then copied as one of the names of Allah. Ar-Rahman, the name of the one God of the Jews and Christians of Arabia, but also of the followers of Musaylama, who was a competitor of Muhammad's.
Muslima, the false prophet Muslima.
Yep. And Allah, and he says here, Allah is thus a God originating in polytheism. Inscriptions seem to confirm it, right? And then he speaks of Qariyat al-Faw. We'll get to that a bit later as well. Now, Qariyat al-Faw, remember I mentioned in the Hadramaut, all these Yemenis, they moved north and they controlled all of Arabia. Guess where their capital was? At Qariyat al-Faw. For example, there's an inscription, Eagle entrusts the tomb he has built to Kal Allah. Okay, to Ka'el, right? Allah, and to Athar the Oriental. Who's Athar? Asherah, the female consort of Allah. And the text is dated by the writing style to the beginning of the Christian era, just before or just after. So these pagans suddenly come up with a pagan monotheistic deity called Rahman, the peaceful, right? The God of mercy, which is taken from the Christians and the Jews. And then, of course, Islam comes up with Rahmanan, who also happens to have the name Allah. But this name Allah comes long before Islam. Again, for the second time, we find it. Usama.
Kal Allah, when this was written again?
This is the beginning of the Christian era, just before or after. So this is like, I don't know, this is after Christianity began.
500 years before Muhammad. Kal Allah.
Yeah, Ka'el. Remember we spoke of Ka'el. We spoke about that, and I've just come back to that point now.
Kahil Allah. Man. This material is going above my head, brother. It's too much.
What?
Too much.
Yeah, but what do you think? I mean, is this like starting to change your perception here? It's just like, this is like, it's changing.
No. I mean, listen, if this information we're reading here is accurate, we are destroying Islam from before the beginning of Islam. If Muslims know that which we share in here, there's no reason even to get into Islam. It's over.
It comes from here, the Oxford Handbook of Late Antiquity, from Oxford University Press. That's legit. And yeah, it's quite a bit of research that a lot of people have put together, you know. So Arabia and Ethiopia, here you go.
Man.
Okay. Well, just thinking about that quote, that the name Allah doesn't appear in the oldest revelations. Okay, it would be good to actually see the oldest revelations. I mean, we know that the first one is supposed to be Surah 96, and it's supposed to say, read in the name of your Lord, and so on. It's like, okay, but how many revelations are we talking about? Are we talking the first 10 verses, or are we talking the first 3 surahs? So I think it might be just a little bit misleading. By thinking the oldest revelations, we think 3 or 4 surahs, and that's not the case, because Allah appears everywhere. Now, important caveat is that Daniel Brubaker...
In English, maybe he appears everywhere.
Yeah, Daniel Brubaker has gone through lots of manuscripts, and he said that the word Allah is actually inserted in quite a few places. It's almost like they had the text, and sometimes things were vague, and then they went in there and they wrote Allah. So it's very difficult to unpick, unless we go to the oldest manuscripts and actually we check by hand, and Muslims are not doing it, of course. So Allah is a very, very tricky word for those.
Do we have... Okay, here's my question. Do we have any manuscript where you see the word Allah was inserted?
Yes.
Brubaker, so, but notice, Ar-Rahman was the Christian god, and then the Muslims also borrowed the name. The pagans borrow it, and then the Muslims borrow it. So they've taken, again, they've taken the name of the Christian God and applied it to this Allah, who we know had a consort, had a female goddess as a wife. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Allah. Allah had a female wife. And Allah was Ka'el, and we know that Ka'el, and we know that these are all pagan deities.
That's why
I mean,
Muhammad deny in the Quran that Allah has no female companion.
Yes. Because Allah was known to have a female
Here's
companion.
the deal. Lloyd, Christians never believed that Mary, the Virgin Mary, the mother of our Lord Jesus, has anything to do sexually with God. So why Muhammad insert in the Quran 5:116? Allah speaking to Isa, did you tell the people to take you and your mother as gods without me?
Yeah, it's totally random.
Huh?
But we know that there are Gnostic groups that had that belief. There are Gnostic groups. Like these Iranians, like these guys.
This was made up. I thought there was no Gnostic belief in that. They made it up. Mohammedans made it up.
No, we also remember the Sabaeans? There were Sabaeans or some groups of them that had that belief that there was the mother goddess and all that. So we've touched on that in the past. Yeah, JC?
I think actually was it actually in Egypt? I think you mentioned that this was one of the beliefs in Egypt that Mary was part of the Trinity, no?
Yeah, something like that. There's at least one or two groups that had that belief. So these were known Gnostic, totally offbeat beliefs, and then you had some of these pagan gods that had the same vibe. And the Muslims seem to be reacting to this. Yes, Emmanuel?
We had the same beliefs, actually. You remember how I told you that, our prophetess of course, this is a modern Gnostic cult, but still, I told you that our prophetess, originally she was like, oh yeah, brother Emmanuel spoke to me, and first Emmanuel was just a spiritual being, and then she was like, oh yeah, no, it's an angel actually, and then she's like, oh no, actually it's the angel of God. And then she's like, no, actually, Emmanuel is actually Jesus. And then she's like, oh, no, actually, I am Jesus.
So the story changes.
And she's building herself up ever more, But at the beginning, she's still a little timid and is like, oh, yeah, no, it was just an angel or a spiritual being that told me this new revelation, completely mirroring Muhammad.
Which is what Muslims probably did. And the Coloridians thought Mary was a goddess. Yeah, that's true.
But then when she started building herself up as her own God and claiming that actually, ultimately she didn't even just say that she was Jesus. Ultimately, she started saying, oh no, actually now she's even higher than Jesus. Now she actually is God. So and when she started making that claim, she was claiming that she would be Sophia, which is kind of this
the mother goddess. Yeah.
Right.
And the goddess of wisdom.
And the weirdest thing, we had, of course, we were claiming that, oh no, we don't have churches, but we had churches. We had church buildings and temples and all that. Even though we were claiming, oh no, we're better than.
But Usama, do I seem to be just making random connections?
Our places of worship were called Mother House. Or the house of the mother. And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, that's because we're actually worshiping our prophet, even though we're not supposed to commit shirk, right? But we did. Actually, we were actually worshiping her. She was the mother. And that's why the places of worship were called Mother House, because we were actually worshiping her, because she ultimately claimed to be Sophia and claimed to be the mother god.
As we know, Muslims worship Muhammad. He's the Allah. I mean, really. So yeah.
I just mentioned that because I remember this constellation with her being the mother goddess and so on is similar to this pagan concept of the Trinity.
Right. So Usama, does this all sound like me just making up a bunch of stuff, or does this seem to all connect back to each other?
I think there is a lot close connection between all these materials we've been covering so far. This is not out of thin air. I just wish I'm a little bit smarter than I am, and I wish I have studied that years ago. That is only two regrets I have. But I love what
this took me a long time to put together. I mean, I spent months researching this. But you see, the thing is, when we did it years ago, I didn't know as much as I did then. Now I know much more, so I can make better
Oh, and I
connections.
promise you, next time, if you repeat the study a couple years from now, you'll be doing even deeper work. I guarantee it.
Yeah. So let's look at Asherah, right? Astarte, right? A warrior goddess of Canaan and Syria. She's the Western Semitic counterpart of the Akkadian Ishtar from Mesopotamia. Okay, now we've got our link there, right? And her aggression can be seen in the bull horns that she wears as a symbol of domination. Remember, I said that the Sufis claim that Allah has a female aspect. That's his true internal aspect. Externally male, internally female. And suddenly now, remember, the moon is the male, whereas in Western culture, the moon is the female and the sun is the dominant male. It's flipped around in the Arabian culture. In the Levantine homelands, Astarte is a battlefield goddess, right? And so now you've got this whole jihad aspect coming in here. When the Philistines killed Saul and his three sons on Mount Gilboa, they deposited the enemy armor as spoils in the temple of Ashtoreth, Astarte. Okay. Now let's look at some pre-Islamic Arabian deities. Hilal is the god of the new moon. That's the crescent moon. is the god of Qataban from Yemen. He has the goddess Athirat as his consort. Oh my God, now again, once again, the same link, which is, so the same deity, the same worship, the same ideas were all the way from Turkey, Babylon, all the way down, right through Arabia, all the way to the tip of Arabia. Deuteroscopy 12 has Yahweh commanding the destruction of her shrines so as to maintain purity of his worship. Now, Atarat is Asherah, is Ashtaroth, is Astarte. The prophets of Israel warned God's people not to worship these false gods. That's in a number of biblical passages. And Kaal or Kael or Ha'el is the moon god of Hadramaut of Yemen and the god of the Kinda. Now, we've already discussed Kael, Ha'el, and so on.
Yeah.
Shin was the chief god of the Hadramites. Again, now we're talking about Yemenis again, connected to the Semitic god Shin, who was the moon god of Babylon, who was also called Allah and also known as Baal. Talab is the moon god worshipped by the Sumay, a Sabaean tribal confederation. We spoke about Muhammad was a Sabi. And these guys are in the Syrian-Turkish border, and the Muslims conquered that region, and they had... we started, hopefully... Yatha is associated with salvation. So suddenly these people have a god of salvation called Yatha, right? His name means savior. Now, Tha can also become Sha, Yasha, okay? Right? His name means the savior. Now, suddenly, pagans have a savior god, and he may be an archaic equivalent to Yesha or Yisa, Isa, a masculine noun meaning salvation. See Strong's Hebrew 3468 and 3467. It's taken from the root Yasha, Isa. You see, Yasha, Isa.
So is that why Muhammad changed the name Yeshua to Isa?
Possibly. There could be some confluence. I don't have the answers, but I mean, it's just that these...
maybe some people mention the name Isa in front of him because they understand from the Hebrew text that it means savior, and he put it Isa in Arabic, which does not mean anything.
So let me just see.
Strong's H3468. Yesheh.
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 Yesheh could become Isa.
Yesheh.
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 Yesheh. Isa, Yesheh. It could just be a mispronunciation of Yesheh, the savior.
Just simply when you take a word from one language to another language, we have the Shin Sin, Hebrew Arabic. I mean, he literally, any Shin, Yeshua is the real name in Hebrew, and in Arabic we call him Yeshua. That is Jesus.
So the sh becomes, the sound changes across languages. Like K becomes H, right? Or K changes to H, or G changes to J. This happens all the time. Notice the God of deliverance, the God of salvation.
Yeah. That makes sense.
JC, anything from you?
No, I'm still processing this information.
Yeah, and this appears
That's
in the
what
Bible
I'm doing, brother.
a bunch of times. And this word, this concept appears in the Bible a bunch of times. I mean, I've just taken 3468. There's also 3467. But the similarity here is just crazy.
Yeah, if you can do me a favor, Lloyd, just don't give us any more today because I cannot take anymore. I'm serious. I'm
Okay.
not joking. I mean, maybe I'm not smart like you guys can talk about that for another 2 3 hours, but I cannot take it. I'm done. I'm cooked.
Yeah. But it's like a transliteration. Exactly. It's a transliteration. It's taking a foreign word and pronouncing it in your own language. Right?
Yeah,
For instance, there's an
yeah.
interesting word. I'll show you guys something. This is a word that I've seen Australians use for something that's really big, like someone like you hit your head and you have a big like knob on your head, right? Let's say,
Yeah.
oh my, that's a doozy, right? Let me just show you something here. That's a doozy, and what you have is that is not. You think, oh, that's just a slang word the Australians made up. Doozy. It actually comes from Polish. It's duże. To jest duże. To jest bardzo duże. It's big. It's a doozy. He's got a big, he's got a big black eye. He's got a big knob. He hit his head against the wall or something. That's a, that was quite a doozy, right? It was a big shot, Duże. Doozy. You see? Because in English, you read doozy. You don't have je in English. So it's just a transliteration. They took yesha and became isha, isa. Because sh becomes in Arabic.
I can see that as if you speak 2 or 3 languages, you can tell that this is a problem. Sometimes the new people who are using the same word they cannot even make the word, so they have to change it. It makes more sense if you change it around, make it. I can say cha. How many people can say the letter cha?
Not many. Ha. Not many people have that. People who speak English as a first language, like Americans and Brits, they don't have that word in their
And even if you
vocabulary.
can say cha, you cannot say rain because rain is a little bit different in your throat than cha.
Rain. Yeah, it's harder for me because I don't have that in my languages, but I can say ha because that's in Afrikaans. It's common. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see doozy and however you say it.
Duże. 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 Because the Y, you see, in Polish, the Y is not I or E, it's a. A Y in Polish is duże.
Listen, I don't know the difference between P and B. So I eat popcorn and I drink Pepsi all the time.
Radio. So yeah, but Muslims can't pronounce the names of the people from the Bible, so they mispronounce it and they misspell it.
Sure, makes sense. That's
so
logic.
we can end here if your brain's about to explode. But
please, I give you $50 donation. Here we go, $50 donation.
That'll be great. That'll be great. So guys, if you like the content, if you benefit from it, if you feel I've given you something to think about, something to chew on, then please do like, of course, do share, do subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, send this to Muslims, ask them questions, use the content, take the screenshots, post them on social media, and thank you for those who do support the channel. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, this takes a lot of time, a lot of research, and hopefully this gives you some insight. Hopefully you gain something and learn something from this. Yeah,
Amen.
so Usama, JC, does all of this make sense? Are we heading somewhere? Somewhere.
Keep going, but don't go too much. Give me one bite at a time, please. You cannot eat an elephant in one day, okay? Just one bite at a time, okay?
Yeah. So for the audience, there's all these connections, all of these coincidences. There's just far too many coincidences here.
No coincidence, brother. This is a real thing here. Coincidence, my fault. Coincidence if you make 1 or 2 things by luck, but it's almost everything you're sharing fit together.
Yeah. There's things I've spoken of now. In a few slides, I'll come back to them and I'll say, hold on, let's look at this thing. See how remember I said that? Well, it connects here.
Yep.
The whole question where they blame, no, it's the Turks that did it. Well, we're going to get there. We're going to talk about that.
Well, when you were actually talking about particularly the land of Canaan and some of those connections, plus the Hilal and Baal, it actually looked almost like they were like Islam did not bring back the religion of Abraham. It's like they brought back the religion of Canaan. They took the crescent moon, they chant from the river to the sea. It's all about let's go and take that land. It's very bizarre.
The original religion of Abraham was this Sabaean moon worship, this astrological astronomical religion. It was the stars, the planets, these pagan pillars. It was all of this stuff, and they've rolled them all. They've tried to take all of these things and roll them into one. It's crazy, and they've borrowed ideas from Islam. They've borrowed ideas from Christianity, borrowed ideas, from Judaism, but try to modify them, and they've taken all of these pagan things. That's how it starts to look to me. So sure, yes, you can say fine. Yes, they borrowed from Judaism, they borrowed from Christianity, but they've also borrowed from all of these other religions. I don't think we can say they didn't, and I think this is an unexplored aspect of Islamic history.
And I just want to add, since you said that again, I said it before, but I feel it's important to make that clear every time. What they borrowed from Judaism and Christianity were not the actual Orthodox teachings. It was the heretical stuff. It was the Gnostic stuff. It was the heresies. It was the infancy gospel stuff and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And what's amazing, Lloyd?
Yeah, go on.
I read the book of Judges, I guess maybe 40, 50 times in my life. I never read the word ahillah in Judges 8, 21 and 26, except today. I did not know he meant the crescents, the early stages of the moon. Never. First time in my life. I actually wrote it as you go through the slides, and I wrote here Qada 8:21, Qada 8:26. I said I'll look at later, and I just opened it now. For the first time, I see that in my Arabic Bible.
Wow.
God's my witness. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so guys, if we're going to meet tomorrow, Wednesday, I may have difficulty. I've got some activities I have to attend to, but tomorrow, Usama, we're going to meet and we go through the sources of the Quran stories. We're going through the sources of the practices and the narratives in the Quran. All of these stories that come from Gnostic and other religious sources. We did that a couple of weeks back. So shall we go back to that tomorrow?
If I have to make a trip tomorrow, but if I will squeeze the 2 hour, I will free myself to be on the show.
Okay, we'll do the same. We'll try and we can make it quick. Delmi Treecut says, when people say names do not change in different languages, ask them why Jim, Jimmy, James, Iago, Tiago, and Jacob all come from Yaakov in Hebrew. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because names change. Yeah. So that's it. So hopefully, guys, this has given you something to think about. But hopefully, there's more to this than just what happened in Iraq. Yes, lots happened. There's things that happened in Persia, but there were certainly elements as well, and this whole fight against the people of the Jews and the desire to conquer the land. Amen. This is a biblical fight that goes back, and these Muslims are just continuing that same fight. They in the same tradition as these enemies of the Jews.
They're following the same God, the God of this world, the devil, no more or less.
Yep.
Amen.
Yeah, it's true. That's crazy. Yes, I used to think heresies were the truth that the church hid. And when you read the old church fathers and you read about the heresies, it's fascinating reading. It's incredible reading. So you read Irenaeus, against heresies. It's fantastic to read it. Yeah, you realize, it's actually these were serious problems, and you can find these things. It's just repetition of the same theme. It's throughout history. So guys, we should call it a night. So guys, thank you all very much.
Call it a night. Good night. Call it a night.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah. Thanks, guys. We shall see you all soon. See you tomorrow. Take care. Good night. God bless. Bye-bye.